Before using this database management system, we have been using a raw file system. For example, if you want to write data, then as you know, in C you have studied how to open a file, then you have to write the modifications, or if you want to read data also, you have to open the file, then close the files, etc. etc. That means using simple file system, it is very difficult to manage data. Okay. Now, these are the drawbacks when we are dealing with raw file system. That is data redundancy. What do you mean by redundancy? Redundancy means duplication of data. For example, your data is stored in the college database, and in different files your data is stored. For example, a personal information about you is stored in somewhere, and in some other location some other data regarding you is stored. And when you are updating a particular data, if there is redundant information, suppose that your name or your address is stored in different locations, when you are updating data, suppose that your address is changed, then in one location, that means in separate files in different locations, suppose that your address is stored, then if your address is changed, you have to update all the fields. That means in different files your address may be stored, and if you want to update your information, update your address, suppose that your address is changed, then what will happen? You have to update all the locations. Then you should know in what are the different locations your address is stored. Otherwise, in one place you are changing your address, and in some other location you may not be able to update that address, then that is inconsistency. There is possibility of inconsistency. In one location or in one file, your address is X, and in some other location it is Y. That means those are different. That means it will create inconsistencies. Okay, but if your database, if your data is stored in a well designed database, then this duplication is avoided. That means in your database only one place you are going to store your address. Redundant information will not be there. So that is regarding redundancy and inconsistency. In the later section of your course, we will discuss all these things in detail. Multiple file formats, duplication. Redundancy means duplication of information and in different files. Okay. Now, difficulty in accessing files. So, for example, if you want to access some information, then first of all, you have to find in which file it is stored, then you have to open the file, then read that information, then you have to close the file. Okay, opening and closing of the file has to be done by the program or the user himself, and user has to, that means it is a very difficult task, because if you want to retrieve some information, then first of all you have to open that file, and then you have to read that information, then close. Opening and closing of files are very time consuming process, and that will delay the information. That means delay the retrieval of information. Okay, now data isolation, that means data is isolated. That means there are multiple files in multiple formats. There may be different programmers who are dealing with this, and they may be using different file formats and different files. So documenting all those things, and these things are very difficult. Okay. Now, integrity constraints. For example, suppose that the banking database, if there is a withdrawal, if you want to withdraw a particular amount, first of all we have to check whether the account balance is greater than zero. If you are want to withdraw say 10,000 rupees from here, then first you should verify whether it is greater than or equal to 10,000, and account balance always should be greater than zero. Okay, then these are integrity constraints. When you are withdrawing some information from the database or withdrawing from your bank account balance should be greater than 0. That is an integrity constraint. And for example, another one is your roll number. Your roll number should be an integer value, positive integer value. Negative numbers are not allowed. These are all integrity constraints. So, imposing integrity constraints in a file format is difficult. So, in data DBMS, it is very easy to add integrity constraints. So, in the program, if you are writing code for that, then suppose that say now the interest rate is a 4% and the RBI is changing that 3.5%, then what will happen? There is a need to do all those things, all those programs in which that interest rate is there, and you have to edit all those things and you have to update that. So here in this case, if you are using DBMS, you have to in the DBMS there is a single point where you have to update. That is the peculiarity of DBMS compared to file system. It is regarding the atomicity of updates. Atomicity of updates in the sense failures may leave the database in an inconsistent state with partial updates carried out. For example, suppose that if you are transferring a fund from one person to another, account of one person to another, suppose they have deducted or debited the amount from one account and at the same time you are crediting it the other person's account, then that transaction is good. Okay, that means either it should be done or not done. That means atomicity means you may be transferring fund from account of one bank, account which is in one bank to some other bank. Then here we have a database, there we have another database, and if you are using file system for that, here in the source bank or in both the banks they are keeping these as files, then here you are debiting, that means you are transferring a fund of as a 500 rupees to the other person, then here in the first file system you are updating, and at the same time if you are not doing that on the receptor's account, then that credit is not done. That means either it should be done or not at all. These things we have to do in file system. It is very difficult. So if you are using database management system, this can be overcome. Okay. Then concurrent access to multiple users. For example, concurrent, that means now if you are using a railway reservation and suppose that when you are browsing your IRCTC website, then suppose that one berth is available from say Chenganur to Kozhikode, and at the same time some other person also he is searching and he also found out that there is a berth vacant from Chenganur to Kozhikode. Okay, so if both the persons are trying to book the berth at the same time, but the same, that means concurrent access to multiple users, it is improving performance. That means definitely it improves performance. Mean all of us can search the IRCTC website at the same time. So it is improving the performance. But if you are booking that berth, it should not be allocated to two of them. Only one person is allowed to book that berth at the same time. So this kind of restrictions or this kind of concurrent access is very difficult to provide if you are using file system, but in DBMS it is easy to do that. Okay, now security issues. For example, due to security reasons, different. For example, in a college, principal is allowed to access all the data. Students, as students, you are not able to access every data, and these kind of things, security issues. That means not every person is allowed to access every data. That means there should be restrictions. Due to security reasons, there should be restrictions. So, if you are using file system, it is very difficult to provide these things as far as file system is concerned. But in DBMS, it is very easy to do that. Okay, so these are the issues which we have to take into account when we are dealing with file systems, or these are the drawbacks of file systems, and DBMS is a solution to all the above problems. DBMS provides all the solution to all the problems. That means redundancy or atomicity, then integrity constraints, then atomicity of updates, concurrent access by multiple users, security reasons, and a lot of such issues we discussed. And DBMS is a single solution, a solution to all these to rectify all the problems compared to our file system. Okay, thank you.